Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make some spice cookies, and this is what they look like. These are wonderfully crisp and crunchy, and as you can see, there's some chopped almonds on top. There's also some ground almonds in the dough, and they are wonderfully spicy. So the first thing we're going to do is we have to heat some of our ingredients. It's a little different, but makes such a wonderful cookie. So you will need a medium-sized saucepan and a half a cup, 113 grams of butter. As you know, I like unsalted butter. You could use salted here if you want. And I just cut it into pieces just because it will melt a little quicker. And then you will need a half a cup, 100 grams of firmly packed light brown sugar. And you will also need 2/3 of a cup, which is 215 grams of a dark corn syrup. If you can't find corn syrup, you could use golden syrup here. And what I like to do whenever I'm measuring out like a sticky ingredient like corn syrup or honey is I spray the inside of my measuring cup with like a non-stick spray, or you could lightly oil it, and you will find that it will come out a lot easier. It won't stick so much. So now what we're going to do is just heat all these ingredients over medium heat, just until everything gets all melted. And we're going to bring it up to a boil and stir it, because you want to make sure that everything melts, your butter and your brown sugar. Okay, so now we're up to a boil. So you may have to turn your heat down just a bit, because you want it at a nice boil. You don't want it like a furious boil. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set our timer, kitchen timer, for 2 minutes and just let it boil. I don't like to stir it at this. I just kind of, if you want, you can kind of swirl your saucepan, but just let it sit there and boil for 2 minutes. Okay, so that's 2 minutes, so I'm going to turn it off and take it off of the heat. And then I'm just going to let it sit. We want this to cool down to lukewarm. So I'm just going to let that sit for maybe 10 minutes. And when we come back, we will finish off our dough. So now we're going to finish off our batter. But first, what you will need to do is you need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then we're using some almonds here, so you will need to toast your almonds, because that really brings out their flavor. So you will need 3/4 of a cup, which is 100 grams of blanched almonds. You could use, I just use the slivered, you could use whole, and then just put them on your baking sheet, bake for maybe 6-8 minutes, just until they're really lightly brown and you just start to smell them. And then let them cool completely. At that point, what you want to do is just remove 2 tablespoons of your almonds, 20 grams, and finely chop them, which I've already done here. Chop them, because we're gonna, if you remember at the beginning, you could see the cookies, there's a little kind of some ground almonds on top. So we're gonna put that aside for that. And then for our dry ingredients, in a large bowl, I have 2 cups, which is 260 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And these are a spice cookie, so we need lots of spices. So you will need, first you need 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. You need 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, and 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, and 1 1/4 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. And then we will also need 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and we're going to put 1/2 teaspoon of finely ground black pepper. You can use white pepper. And all of this, you're going to get the spice, and then you get a little bit of pepper, so that's going to really get some heat there. Of course, you know, you can adjust that, the level of the spices, if you want. And then I'm also going to add the grated zest of 1, I guess would you call it a medium or a large lemon. And always make sure to wash your lemons first, preferably by organic. And then I'm just using one of these microplanes. You could use a box grater. And I'm just going to use the zest. Lemon just really brings out all the flavors if you add a little bit. Okay. Fancy tool. Makes it easy. Okay, so now you could sift all your ingredients together, or I'm just going to whisk them. And then you will need to take, remember all those slivered almonds that we toasted. And what we're going to do is we want to finely grind them. So I like to use my food processor, put them in there. And then what I like to do is just take like a couple of big spoonfuls of my flour in there. And the reason I do this is if you don't put like a little bit of flour or sugar or something in when you process your almonds, what you can do is over process, and then you'll have like a paste. Where if you put a little flour in there, that kind of prevents that from happening. So I'm just going to process this until they're nice and finely ground. Just a little more. Okay. Then I'm just going to put all this in with my rest of my flour. So as you can see, there is a lot of great ingredients in this cookie. Very flavorful. Okay. So just give that a stir. And now, put those almonds aside. Hopefully now our boiled mixture has cooled down enough. Good stir. And then I'm going to add to that 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of pure vanilla extract. A little flavor. And I'm going to add like just 1/4 teaspoon of pure almond extract. And that'll kind of intensify that almond flavor with the ground almonds. And now I'm just going to pour this in here and mix everything together. And what's kind of interesting about this, it's kind of there's no egg in here, and it's kind of a unique batter because we have to chill it before we roll it. And it kind of gets to be like the texture of like a Tootsie Roll, like kind of, I mean, it's kind of very unique. And wow, does it make a great cookie. Scrape this off. I think I'm going to have to get my hands in there to get it all mixed together. It's a very pliable dough. Wonderful to work with, as you will see when we roll it out. So I'm just going to gather all this up, work it. And then you will need, 2 pieces of plastic wrap. We will divide, because we're going to divide the dough in half. See, as you can see, wonderful dough. Don't want to waste any. Okay. So just kind of divide it in half and this out of the way. Take your piece of plastic wrap and just flatten it into a round and then put it in the refrigerator. We want to get it a little more firm to make it easier to roll out. Maybe an hour. You could actually leave this in the fridge for probably up to 5 days if you want. So that's a great do ahead. Just wrap it up and then put it in the fridge. When we come back, we will roll out our dough. Okay, so now we are ready to roll out our dough. So you want to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190 degrees Celsius. Then you will need a baking sheet. I've lined mine with a piece of parchment paper, but you could just lightly butter your baking pan, or even just spray it with one of those non-stick sprays. Now, this dough, if you leave it a long time in the refrigerator, it is going to get like really, really hard where you can't roll it out, which is fine. I mean, don't worry about that, especially if you kind of made it the day before. Just let it sit on your counter maybe a half hour, and then it will, see, it's very pliable. So you want it kind of pliable, so if it's not, just let it sit on your counter. And then I like to roll, you can roll your dough. You could just lightly flour your surface and roll your dough out. I actually prefer to do it between two pieces of parchment paper, or even wax paper, or even you could use plastic wrap. And then we are going to roll this pretty thin. Probably like 1/8 of an inch. What's that, about 3 millimeters? So really thin. So just work it. Mine is still a little hard, but once we get it going, it'll be fine. Just move it around. I am actually going to wet my surface here. See if my paper will not move. There. If you find that happens, especially if you have granite, just wet your countertop a little. Makes life easier. Okay, so I'm just going to roll it, keep rolling it, and then you might want to flip it every once in a while and make sure it's nice and smooth. But as you can see, once it softens up, okay, I think that's about right. Always run your hand over the surface, and you can kind of tell if it's the same thickness throughout, because there usually is a tendency to be thicker in the center and then thinner on the outside. I don't know why we do that, but okay, so I'm just going to peel that off. See, this is what you're looking for. And then take a cookie cutter, really any size that you want. I mean, the only thing that's going to vary if you want smaller cookies or larger is the baking time's going to be a little different, but I'm using, I think this is about a 2.5, what's that, 6 centimeter. And then we just cut it out, and see, peels off very nicely. And then what we're going to do is you put them on the baking sheet, and then remember those almonds we cut up. So take a few of those, as many as you want, put on top, and then just gently press down so those almonds stick to your cookie. And then just keep going. If you have any leftover scraps, which you will, just re-roll them and cut out some more. And you space them, you know, about 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters apart, because these don't spread very much. Okay, so we're ready to bake them. As always, everyone's oven is a little different. Now, the thing about these cookies is you don't really want to overbake them. And the reason is these cookies they're actually, like I say, crisp, crunchy, but they're almost like I would say brittle. So if you cook them a little too long, they will get like almost hard to eat. They're so brittle. You might have to dunk them in your coffee. So what you want to do is there will be some color. They'll just and I mean just barely get a little color around the edges. You don't want too much or they will really hard. Although maybe you like them that way. So I find somewhere between 7 to 9 minutes. And then what I like to do is about halfway through baking time, is just rotate my baking pan front to back. Okay, our spice cookies are done. See, they have nice color, and you know, you can see they're just starting to get a little brown around the edges. So that's how I like them. Now you may want to do a test cookie to see exactly how crisp and crunchy you want your cookies at home. So what I'm going to do now is I put the baking sheet on a wire rack. I'm just going to let them cool for a couple minutes just so they firm up a bit, and then I will transfer them to the rack to finish cooling, and when we come back we will try one. Okay, so let's try one. Oh, and whether you hear that's a real snap. Really crunchy. Love that. Buttery, almond flavor. And then what I like, you kind of get that right at the end, you get that spiciness, and a little bit of black pepper adds that bit of heat. It's great too. You can store these for, you know, probably a week more, although I find I can't stop eating them. You eat one, they're very addictive. So try them. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyofbaking.com.